Well, this is it. Youth Ministry Mindset Podcast Season 2. And this is the TLDR episode, which I've heard now is the too long didn't read, which is my life. So did you guys ever grow up on Spark Notes or Cliff Notes?
Oh, 1,000%.
That's what I
read
like.
0 words of Dracula.
Yeah. You read Dracula in high school? Is that
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
Did you write an essay on Dracula?
Well, no, I didn't read Dracula in high school. That's kind of the point.
Okay. Anyway, this is the Cliff Notes, Spark Notes / TLDR version of Youth Ministry Mindset, which could be a lot of you. And even you probably, is it worth listening to fully? So we want to give you some key things, key themes, key highlights from all these different conversations we just had in this multi-part series. So I'm going to do a little bit of a reflection. And then I would love for you, Jason and Annie, by the way, joined by friends, Jason Kidd and Annie Grandell.
Howdy.
And this was a podcast we did between Alpha and Y Disciple of Net Ministries and had guests all along it. But here's what I found. Every guest that came on didn't know what we were talking about holistically, but at the same time, knew exactly what we asked them to talk about, but they all talked about each other's things that they were bringing without even knowing each other. And there was definitely common themes that surfaced. And so I'm wondering, Jason and Annie, what themes did you hear? Now that I say that, what themes did you hear across all of our guests that's like, oh man, that's a thread that we need to pull out?
That's good. I think one thing that I was reminded of again and again was the power of the Holy Spirit. And that's not power in the world's view, right? It's a holy boldness, but it is power. And sometimes maybe I've domesticated my view of the Lord.
Yeah.
Have I just gone through this sacrament and this preparation, with like these young people are encountering the power of the Holy Spirit, like dynamite. And that just struck me in the stories.
And in particular, we talked a lot about how we need to abandon the outcome and embrace the posture of seeking and obeying in the space of confirmation in a big way. Yeah, that was definitely everyone's key point. Is there something that you felt, Annie, as you stepped in?
One of the many things that they all came back to was, and we've talked about this, that the number one searched for thing on Google related to Catholic youth ministry is confirmation curriculum. It's the number one searched for thing on Google. For Catholic youth ministry, not on Google altogether. And every single guest talked about how we need to reimagine confirmation away from a classroom model. Everyone did. And the fascinating thing about that is there was a survey done of Catholic young people by the National Federation for Catholic Youth Ministry a couple years ago. And one of the top 3 things that young people specifically asked for by name from the church, had nothing to do with doctrine change. But one of them was a reimagining of confirmation and faith formation away from classroom models. None of them said the content isn't important. It matters. But they all said, let's reimagine, let's put the book down and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And everyone took this posture of we have to figure out ways for us to increase our relational proximity to young people as they discover things in this journey we're inviting them on. So that was great. Okay. Now, you guys don't know this, but there are actually multiple people in the room who also got to experience these, all these episodes. So our amazing producers / IT / gurus of all things tech, Emma and Steven, would love for you guys, there's a one mic that was left on, which is intentional. Was there a common thread for you as you listen to all these things, all these guests, even us in our chats, off mic and on mic, that you feel like, oh man, this is the thing We'll go. Yeah, Emma first.
Me first, so that Steven can test the mic levels on me. Because I don't know how to work the soundboard.
So, Emma, will you really quick introduce yourself?
Yes.
I'm Emma. I am the ministry content manager for Net Ministries. So work with all of Why Disciples content, and then work with Net's missionary content, retreat content, discipleship content.
So you live in content world.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Think about Why Disciple that is and looks good. Emma has touched.
Amazing. So you're very familiar with content. And
Yes.
we basically just been going through a bunch of content together, talking about all sorts of things. Was there a particular, and you can honestly say the same thing, but one of us already been said, but is there one thing that you're like, that stuck out the whole time?
Slow down.
Yes. Oh, I'm really glad you said that.
Slow down. Yeah, that was, and especially, I think that's just like so the Holy Spirit to what you said, Jason. Like, he's not in a hurry. You can not know who your confirmation saint actually is when you pick them. Like, that was such a common thread. But like, yeah, Jesus isn't in a hurry. The Holy Spirit's not in a hurry. And like, your confirmation curriculum, your content, your whatever you're doing doesn't have to be perfect. For the Lord to use it to touch people's hearts.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
That's good. Really good. Thank you for sharing this.
Yeah.
And thank you for all the work you've already done and the work you'll do cleaning up all the edits.
Yeah.
I will not clean up the edits. That will be Steven, but thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Speaking of,
Steven, would love to hear the things that you're like, because you do this a lot. You do podcast stuff a lot. You do content stuff a lot too. But
yeah, I'm
just
never
like
on this side of the
That's what's fun about this.
the lens, we'll say.
yeah. Okay, so same thing with Emma. We'd love to know what you do.
Yeah. Introduce
What I
yourself.
do.
Yeah.
So, I used to do for Net Ministries. I used to do the marketing. So I was hired to do their graphic design, and then quickly COVID happened when I was hired. It was my
Quickly. It was your first day.
It's the first day. First day of work was March
Baptism by
6th,
fire.
2020. And the first meeting I went to was, so we're all going home. And so I was like, great,
Real
maybe
life.
I won't have a job tomorrow, but okay, here we go. Now I work with Why Disciple. I basically just run productions in terms of like making sure all the equipment
Yeah.
is working correctly. Yeah.
No big deal. Just making sure it all functions.
And he's the best
Yeah.
editor I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Annie. Yeah, appreciate
And most
that.
of you can't see this, but he's also really good at lighting. I never look as good as when Steven has like lit me. Like, I want him to follow me around in the real world.
All right. So the question is, Steven,
Yeah.
as you've heard all of these different sessions, all these guests didn't really know each other coming in. What was the one thing that you picked up across the board as we talked about the confirmation space?
Yeah, that's a tough question, I'll say, because there was so many great things that were said from all of the guests. And I felt like after each episode, I was thinking, oh, that's the one thing that I'll be taking from that episode. But Chris Wesley's been on my mind today. And it was when he was talking about the role of a sponsor and how it's supposed to be something that is lifelong. You continue to walk with them post confirmation. And I've been a sponsor. I'm a sponsor for 2 different people. And I just think about how I failed in that regard, but how I still have a chance to redeem that and be inspired by what was said on this podcast to like move forward and through it and be like, okay, yeah, I did fail, but then like to allow that to change something in my life. So
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, man.
absolutely. That's my one thing. Keep
love that.
walking with your sponsorees.
Yeah.
And a part of that was everyone did approach confirmation as this is not just an island. This is meant to be connected to the whole of how we form young people's faith and nurture young people's faith.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate you sharing
Absolutely.
that. And for any other sponsor listening, it's
There's still
okay.
time.
You haven't failed. There's still time. You can press in.
Yeah, totally.
Even if it's been 15 years, you still have time.
Yeah, you can always re-engage young people. They're desperate for connection, for sure. All right, so this is the TLDR episode, and this is it. I would love to go back to why did we do this to begin with? What was the hope for us? What was the stirring that God was stirring in us for this? And I'll toss it to you, Annie and Jason. Why did we do this? And what came of it?
The reason wanted to have these conversations goes back to that very first episode, how we were talking about there's nobody who works in ministry who thinks confirmation's going great. Everyone knows there's something off or broken about it. And what we wanted to do was host a conversation for a range of perspectives, both in experience and from different levels. We heard from pastors, we heard from diocesan leaders, we heard from boots on the ground youth ministers, sharing their perspective on this on this reality of where confirmation prep is. And to give our listeners a space to hear these wide range of things, to pull out the themes and say, okay, I can do that thing. Mm-hmm. That can work in my community. The goal was never to create a prescriptive list where, okay, now everybody needs to go do this, 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 and this. But to get all the voices in one place. And I'm really grateful for how our guests played into that.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of like, what if we as youth ministers, as bivocational, people wearing many hats, or a parent, like what if we were to gather with some similar people being asked to do the same thing, and to go up into our upper room and invite the Holy Spirit that the Lord has promised, and envision confirmation in a new way. Because God hasn't changed, the theology of confirmation hasn't changed,
right?
But we need some new wineskins. Like this is not producing the fruit that we want it to, that the Lord wants it to. And I don't know, I just reflecting a little bit, I've been thinking of the disposition of Mary with the Holy Spirit and her receptivity, her docility, this closeness with the Holy Spirit that she surrenders to. And then through the Holy Spirit, Mary brings Christ to the world. And this is what the Holy Spirit wants to do in our young people, so that our young people can be messengers of this good news. Bring healing to broken places, bring light into darkness, bring community into lonely places. And this is exciting. I think this is the times now. The Lord's moving.
It makes me think of the image C.S. Lewis uses in Mere Christianity of imagining ourselves as a house. And that when we first invite the Lord into our life, we're like, come on in, Jesus. And we think he's just going to put on a fresh coat of paint and make things a bit nicer. And all of a sudden he starts knocking down walls and rebuilding everything. And we're like, no, I just wanted a coat of paint. And for the process of conversion, we're like, come on in, make my life a little bit nicer. And what he does is he transforms us. And the image C.S. Lewis uses is the Lord responding and saying, I'm building a castle. And I feel like that is what's happening in this space of confirmation right now. For years, we've been slapping on a new coat of paint.
Yeah.
And Jesus wants to rebuild. He wants to move walls and make it something beautiful. And the common theme I heard from all of our guests was not a tone of negativity, which is often the tone around confirmation, but a tone of hope.
Yes.
It kept coming back to hope. Hope that Jesus is going to do what he says he's going to do. Yeah. And that the confirmation space actually can be one of those spaces of transformation, not just transaction.
Yeah.
Sure. Come on over.
So Emma has amazing thoughts that she stopped us with, but actually there's Emma's thoughts, so we're going to let Emma say them. So It's just recollection of the moment we're in. So Emma, can you just repeat everything that you just said?
Yes. So as Annie was talking just about hope, just remembering that it's 2025, like this podcast is being released in 2025, and it's a Jubilee year in the church, and this Jubilee year is the Jubilee of hope. And like what a Jubilee year fundamentally is this time of extraordinary grace, like conversions, healings, like restoration, forgiveness. The Lord wants to pour out all of those things in this Jubilee year. And so for those people who are listening who are like, all those things sound really good, but I don't really know, like there's extraordinary grace for this restoration, this rebuilding, like in this moment, like in this time, like this school year, 2025, 2026. And that grace doesn't go away just because it's not a Jubilee year anymore after that. But just this, like, there's a reason that hope is so present. And it's because that's the particular grace that the Lord is giving to the church in this year.
Yeah. There's a reset of, that's what the Jubilee does, right? It takes something, and debts that were owed are canceled. Prisoners are set free. That this is the hope of what the world needs, young people need.
All right, guys. My question for you, was there anything left unsaid that we need to say? And also, we approach this whole thing as, let's start a conversation. Right. There's so much more to talk about, but probably not a lot of time from people paying attention to this podcast, but like we could do more. But is there anything left unsaid that we just want to come back to now?
I mean, when you say there's so much more we could do, when we first started having production meetings about this, we kept coming up with guests. We kept coming up with topics. We could have made this season twice as long without breaking a sweat. Okay, we would, because we'd be in studio for a really long time. So that'd be a little rough, but it was not difficult to come up with things to talk about. It was difficult paring it down.
Yeah.
Right. And so the thing I would say is, let this be a start. Like you said, we want this to start a conversation. We know this isn't exhaustive. We know it isn't, but let it be a start. And we've been talking a lot about slowing down, simplifying. But adjacent to that is, don't be afraid to start, right? Yeah. So sometimes the temptation can be, I'm just going to pause and not change anything. I'm not going to do anything. What if you do just one thing?
Yeah.
What if you make an adjustment? Maybe your parish or school is in a place where you can really make some big moves this year. Go, let's do it. But don't wait. Do something small, because now is the time of grace. Now is the time of hope. Jim Beckman, who we referenced earlier, the founding architect of Why Disciple, I once heard him giving a training about Why Disciple when I was a parish youth minister, which is ironic because I went to that training and thought, that will never work, which is really funny because I'm now the Why Disciple director. God laughed and laughed. But he said, because the whole time I'm thinking like this concept of small group discipleship, I'm like, I don't know how that would ever work in my context. And he said, if you wait until all the right pieces are perfectly in place, you will never start. Yeah. And that just cut to the heart and has been stuck in my head now for a dozen years. So my encouragement would be to start.
That's even the invitation of Jesus, is like, just trust me. Mm-hmm. This is mine.
Yeah.
You don't have to have all the pieces before you start building here.
Yeah.
Pope John the 23rd, St. Pope John the 23rd was known to say at night, Lord, I've done all I can for your church today, but it's your church. I'm going to bed.
Yeah. We've got a role to play. I think
Jason, anything?
The thing that's coming to me is in Acts 19, St. Paul comes to this new community of believers and he says to them, have you received the Holy Spirit? The first group of people we'd be talking about is the teens that are coming, right? Have they received the power of the Holy Spirit? And we should be excited to share that with them through the sacrament. But like, have I received the Holy Spirit today? We need the Holy Spirit. Nothing happens without the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so the call back to, I'm a good Martha, busy about many things, but we need to be Mary at the foot of Jesus saying, "Come, Holy Spirit."
Well, all of you listening have at some level said yes to young people, and your yes matters, and that's a yes to the Lord as well. And right now, you must know that God is doing something really beautiful across the USA, across the globe with Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Me, Annie, and Jason get to see it all the time. And I recognize that you lean in, you try to be faithful to this space, but know that God is doing something that only he could do. He is stirring young people's hearts and opening that curiosity around him. The space of confirmation can be that space for young people to discover more that God has placed in their heart. And so lean in, do it with people. Don't fly solo.
Yeah.
And let's have honest conversations so we can best love young people together, because Jesus cares deeply about this and his work. All right. Love you guys. Let's chat soon.